You ready to do this?
I am.
All right, you get one first time at a podcast.
And honestly, if I only had one time to speak with someone for 30 minutes, this is what I would do. And that is I would ask them questions.
Right.
I would ask 5 questions. So if I'm sitting with you, you said, man, PC, help me grow my church. Help me figure out how to make my family meaningful. Help me make my business meaningful. There are 5 questions that I would ask you. And I love questions. John Maxwell, who's a personal friend, of course, he was at the conference. He's there every year to speak to us. He's like a father to me. But he wrote a book called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And I now collect questions. I actually literally have files and files of great questions. We ought to do a whole podcast just on these questions and deliver these in our show notes. But again, if I only get one chance, and so since this is season 1, episode 1, here's the name of this lesson, and that is the 5 most important questions for growth. So if you're taking notes, write these down. If you can't write these down, they'll be in our show notes. But here's the first one, Matt. I call it the clarifying question. And the clarifying question is, what is the measurable win? And don't forget the word measurable.
That's right.
And what I mean by measurable is that you can't just say, man, this is our goal, but this is how here's how we're going to know if it worked or not, because it's actually a measurable goal. Well, so when I do consult, and it's been very informal now for the past 10 years or so, it's getting ready to be formalized more to really go help churches. The first thing I ask them is, what is the win?
I bet you get a lot of different answers.
So how do you know what is it, and how do you know when you've done it? Like, what is it? So if you're going to put a score on the scoreboard, what caused that? What's so interesting is, and I can't do this in every setting that I go consult in, because sometimes the pastors honestly are so insecure they don't want these answers to be known to everyone. But if they'll let me, I'll have everybody that I'm meeting with, let's just say it's the lead team of 7 or 8 people, say, write down what you think the touchdown line looks like for this church. Like, what is the it, and how do you know if you've done it? And 2 things have happened every single time without exception. And that is, I get great answers and I get different answers.
Wow.
And they're all good, but they're just different. So if you can imagine, if you're playing a sport and everybody thinks the touchdown line is in a different place, can you imagine if they break the huddle and go run the play and everybody thinks the touchdown line's in a different spot? It's not going to be a very successful play. So the very first most important question for a family, for a marriage, in fact, you ready for this? Just for yourself, is, what is the measurable win? How do I know when I've done it, and can I articulate it? And because what I know is that great organizations are clear. Great organizations know why they exist, and they know how to measure. So the way we say it is that we measure ourselves, of course, on the Great Commission.
Right.
In our minds, the Great Commission is 4 things. It's that we want lost people saved people pastored people discipled people mobilized. I'll say that again. We want to get lost people saved people pastored. In other words, help them through their issues. We want pastored people discipled, and we want discipled people mobilized. So this is so once we've set that in place, now we know. What we didn't have, of course, and you know this being on our team, that's a great vision. It wasn't articulated that well. Mm-hmm. So once you have a clarity of what the touchdown line looks like, then you have to have clarity of how you're going to communicate it. And of course, we teach this all the time. Language creates a culture of, and clarity is so important. So for us, I'll let you say them. You know the 4 ways we say it at Highlands.
We said we want people to know God, find freedom, discover their purpose, and then make a difference everywhere they go.
And so we have that on mugs, T-shirts, walls, videos. It's everywhere. And you can ask people that have been in our church, a week or 2. They know, whether they agree with it or not, they know. We want you to know God. We want you to find freedom. We want you to discover your purpose, and then we want you to go make a difference. And that has a ring to it. And now, to God be the glory that there are tens of thousands of churches using that same very language. So first question, so very important to ask, is what is the measurable win? How are we going to measure? I want to give you the second question, and I call this the focus question. And the focus question is, what are we going to do to accomplish what we answered in question number one?
This is how. How are we going to do it?
And because now we know what the touchdown line looks like. Now we got to run a play.
Right.
So what are we going to do? What set of plays are going to be called so we cross that touchdown line and 7 points goes up on the scoreboard, right? So that's the goal now. And this is a systems question. I'm kind of known as the systems guy. People call me the systems guy.
We do love systems.
We do love systems. In fact, everybody has them. Everybody uses them. The question is, do they work? So you can have a system, and everybody has a system. A system is what you've done to accomplish a vision. A system is a set of principles and procedures that determine how something is going to be accomplished so that it delivers the vision. And honestly, Matt, I got impacted by this one. I probably learned systems best reading one of my top 5 favorite books of my life called The E-Myth. Okay, and it's written by a guy named Michael Gerber. It's been around for decades. And the E-Myth is, the E stands for entrepreneurial. The entrepreneurial myth is, if you have a great product, you'll have a great successful company. And that's a myth. It's not true. You can have a fantastic product and still fail if you don't know how to deliver the product.
So good.
So it's all in the delivery of it, not just in the idea itself. And that's why people have come up with some great inventions, some phenomenal products that never took off. And while on the other hand, there have been some very mediocre products that were delivered incredibly well, and they're some of the largest companies in the world today, and I'll give McDonald's as one of those. I have never met a single person in my life who said, I think that's the best hamburger I've ever eaten.
Above the age of 8, because my kids will tell you.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But that is true. But right. So, but no one's going there going, oh my God, I think
Right.
I've just had the best hamburger
Right.
of my entire life. What McDonald's did so well, and while they are the largest hamburger franchise, are the delivery mechanisms, the drive-through window, the playground, the Happy Meal. I can get it in your hands in 30 seconds, right? So what they did is they perfected the delivery of a vision. And honestly, what Grow probably does best is that we help churches come up with systems that help them deliver their vision.